Can you tell me about Grandad Harris and Grandma Harris, your mum and dad? So it's James William Harris,
Yes.
and it came from Scottish ancestry.
I think my dad did, not my mother. She was, I think she was Italian ancestry.
Right, and so what was the Italian connection? Do you know anything about it?
No, I don't know. No.
And tell me about Grandma Minion, who was Grandma Harris's. His Grandma Elsie Mary. Sorry, no. Ethel Matilda Harris.
Yeah.
Grandma Harris.
Yeah.
Tell me about Grandma Minion. What her
She was.
position was. I mean, to the family. What did you know about her?
Well, she was a nasty old thing. She was a nasty old woman. She got a cat, and she used to boot the cat out of the way, right into the kitchen on the end of her foot. And she couldn't tolerate children either.
Oh gosh! So how many children did Grandma Minion have?
She had 9 altogether, didn't she?
Grandma Minion.
Oh,
Had 9.
no, she got George. I think she got 3 boys. 3 boys and my mother. My mother.
And she had a fishing tackle shop.
Yeah, she had a fishing tackle shop on the Normanton. What was it?
Normanton Road way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of on that where there's a pub, and over the road there's a butcher's, and just around the corner bit was a tackle shop.
Right. So what do you? I mean, you were born in 1930 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And you had Elsie, Joan, my mother, Jim, and Vera, and Alan.
Yeah.
And Reg, older than you.
Reg, yeah.
So what was it like in your house at the time with all those kids? Did they boss you about?
Oh, well, I don't know. I once we had a house near Rolls Royce at the end of the road, 99 it was. It's much larger now, but there was a big field, and the Royces used to use it for their gala days. They used to have days where the kids used to race and get prizes and there's meals, and got a big tent with all food in. And the kids used to crawl through the back of it and pinch the food. And I did run a race, and I won this big teddy bear. He stood about that high. And my brothers used to use it for target practice.
Oh, really? But
which I didn't like very much.
But this was in the 1930s. And the 1930s were a very difficult time. People didn't have much money, did they?
No.
What was it like? Because Grandad was short of work at one time, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. He went to, the walls of the cemetery up Nottingham Road fell out. They collapsed. And my dad got a job up there, scooping the bodies up and the broken coffins and things.
And
so I had that for a bit.
My mother said that he was able to confirm his long-held belief that your beard continues to grow after you die.
Yeah, that's yes, he did.
So a lot of the bodies had long beards.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yes. But what about his work at Rolls-Royce, though?
Well, he was on the test beds, and then he was in what they call the tool shop, because he was very clever, and it was a very good job then. So he was more on the up and up, and my mother, they went in to buy a house, which was in Wilmot Street, near the town. It's a big house. She needed a big house with all us lot. So we came up from the house near Rolls Royce and moved into Wilmot Street. And there was several big houses, and then there was some smaller ones up near the top of the street.
You had a bigger one.
We had
21 Wilmot Street.
Yeah. And you just went across the road. There was like a jitty, and that took you to the shops. There was a sweet shop and an off licence, and another little shop that sold odds and sods. Somebody called Mr. Taylor. And there was.
But at that time, Rolls-Royce didn't always have enough work for everybody because the government was cutting down on spending money on weapons because there was this appeasement with Hitler and they didn't want to have a lot of weapons. So they didn't really want a lot of aeroplanes. So Grandad was short of work, I was told.
No, it was always in work. When we came up to Wilmot Street, it was always in work because I used to work at
It must have been
Royal
before
Crown
that then. Maybe the time of the general strike. It was 1925. He was out of work then. Yes.
It was out of work at one time, yes. But once he got that job at Rolls-Royce, he never left.
Oh right. Now he was good at walking on his hands, wasn't he?
Oh yes, he used to.
Tell me about that.
We used to get him to walk on his hands, so the money fell out of his pockets. He used to pick it up.
So how did you do that? What did you say to him?
I said, "Dad, walk on your hands. Show us how you walk on your hands," and he'd dutifully do it. Sometimes he was drunk when he did it. The money fell out of his pockets. We pinched it.
Oh gosh! Now, did he know what was going on, or did he?
Well, he did if he wasn't drunk, but he didn't if he was drunk.
Oh right. Yes.
We used to mostly do it when he was drunk.
Yeah. Now he was an amazing piano player as well, Grandad.
Oh yes, he never read music, but he could play what they call by ear, and he used to play it. He used to play very nicely, actually. He was very good. And he used to go down to the pubs and play at the pubs. And he'd have lines of beer on top of the piano that the blokes bought him for playing. And my mother used to say, "Go and see which pub your dad's in and tell him to get back home." So we used to go round all the pubs. But I knew where my dad was because I knew the way he played. We used to go in and Mum said, "You've got to come home."
Mm-hmm. And can you describe Auntie? Can you describe Grandma Harris to me then? Because she always seemed to me like a person who was always there, but she had a lot of kids, and she was fairly quiet as far as I was concerned. But what kind of person was she? What was she like?
My mother.
Yep.
She was very strict, really. She was very strict. She'd got a lot of children, I've got to admit, and so it was very tiring for me. My dad never used to do much. He'd nurse the babies when they were young, you know. He'd sit and nurse them with his arm on the range and his knees up the chimney. And she'd have all the work to do. And she used to have his dinner out on a Sunday, and he was in the pub, and she used to send us out to the pub to tell him to come home for his dinner. But it was very awkward for her, really, because he wasn't very much help. So he went to work, and that was about all he did.
So Grandad had a relationship with alcohol. He had a job, and you had a big house, and you had a lot of children. Was life easy in those days?
Well, I don't suppose it was, really. We always had enough to eat. My mother was a very good cook. She used to make decent meals for us and everything. We never went hungry. But we never had a lot of toys or anything like that. Couldn't afford to buy things because they were paying for the house then, you see. So you just got your decent clothes and you got shoes on your feet and you got food in your stomach, and that was about it.
And can you tell me about, was it Grandma Minion who used to live with you? Because there was a little grandma who used to live with you.
No, there was a little grandma. She used to live with us when we lived down...
near Normanton Road,
yeah.
Yes.
No, we lived down the old house.
Victory Road?
Victory Road. Yeah, we lived there. And the old lady used to live with us. She wasn't out. I don't think she had anything to do with my mother, actually. But we had two aunts that lived in Blackpool, and they used to own a boarding house not between, and they both got a boarding house each, big places. And my mother sent me there for a while when I was 12. And she got an old man, her husband. She used to sit in there. He wasn't very good. He used to be the King's Enquiry at one time. And it'd been retired from that, of course, and he couldn't get about very well. So they used to sit him in the kitchen with a big barrel of potatoes and another big barrel at the other side, and he had to sit peeling potatoes all day. And he used to say to me, and he used to say, if I tell you where the biscuits are, will you go and find my whiskey in the pantry? Oh yeah, I will. So he told me where the biscuits was. There was a big settee, and he lifted the seat up, and the biscuits were all under there. And I went and found his whiskey for him. He showed me where the biscuits were.
And the little grandma, I heard a story about her where she ate the porridge with salt in it. Do you remember that story?
Oh no, it's rice pudding.
Rice pudding. It's a rice pudding. So tell me about that story. Yes.
Yeah, well, my mum, she made a mistake and she put sugar in, salt in instead of in the pudding instead of sugar, and of course nobody would eat it. And the old lady says, "Oh, give it to me, better a belly bust than good food be lost." And she ate the lot. And then one day my dad heard somebody shouting, "Oh, God help me, God help me." And he went upstairs and she said, "A silly old bugger fell in the bath and she couldn't get her out." Oh, you're a good lad, you are," she said. "You're the best in the world. You'll have to help a poor old lady." And he said, "Yes, silly old so-and-so." Get out. Come on. And he got her out of the bath. He says, "I'm pretty fed up with this." He said, "You have to do something about her, you know." He said, "We can't keep going on with her," because it was only a small house. So they got in touch with them, and then they had to fetch her and take her to Blackpool. They were better able than us anyway. But my dad found her an awful bind. She used to try and get off with my dad.
So what happened to Grandma Minion then?
What happened to her? She died in the end.
When?
Yeah, my mother. I remember my mother going to the house, and because she said, "I've got to go and sit with your grandma. She's dying." So my dad, because he hated her, my dad did. And then I was sitting halfway up the stairs, and it was about 11 o'clock, and I heard this bang, 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 bang on the front door. And when there was nobody there, I said, "There's nobody there, Dad." He said, "I know who that is," he says. "The old girl's died," he said, "and she's given me the note to tell me she's gone."
I had a bit of a sense of humour there.
Oh, well, there was nobody there. Not a soul. Either up the street or down the street or across the road.
And tell me about Elsie and about Joan then. What were they doing in this time?
They worked at a laundry when we was down Victory Road. The laundry was more or less on a level with our house. And they both worked in the laundry. Both of them.
And so they went to school before that. That's before.
Oh yeah, they went to school.
So which school were they at when you were?
What was the school around
Well, I suppose you were quite little at the time, weren't you?
Yeah.
But they had to leave school at what age?
We came up to Wilmot Street when I was about 4, I think. So I wasn't at school then.
So when you were, so that was Joan would have been about 14 and Elsie would have been about 15.
And they were
but they'd already left school.
Yeah, they'd left school and they was at work at the laundry, both of them. And
so why did they leave school so early in those days?
I don't know. Probably because we left when we was 14, didn't we? I did anyway. So.
And when you saw the doctor in those days, you had to pay money. You had to pay for it.
Oh yeah, we paid. The doctor a man used to come round. Dr. Killer wasn't named Doctor. He was Mr. Killer, and he used to come. He used to collect so much money every week. Come round with his little book, and the man used to pay him, and he used to go.
Then the doctor would come, and you didn't pay him when the doctor came.
Oh, but he was a very good doctor. He'd come out midnight, if you called him. He was the nicest man he was. And he was very religious as well. And a bit later on, when I'd had children, he used to come and fetch my kids and take them to Sunday school down that, what do they call it?
Sunshine Corner, what's it now?
No. What's that street you go down to get to the infirmary?
It's a Cheverell Street.
Is it?
No, London Road.
No, it's on the London Road.
Shandoff Street.
What's it called?
Charnwood Street.
No.
Osmiston Road.
We used to go down. We used to have to go to the hospital. But it was the what they call the infirmary now. But we had to go down this street first, and my dad used to, going down there, used to have to get on the bus, go down, cross the road, and get him down this street all the way around the corner. And my dad always used to end up having to take us to the infirmary. So that was his job.